Welcome, everybody. This is Tony the Thrill Hill, and we're back with, you know what it is, Breakfast with the Boys. It's been a while. I must admit that. I miss it, man. I miss kind of getting together, kind of talking, some of the things that we really enjoyed. And so with that being said, I've got to go right into it. I got to go to my host or my co-host over here, my ace boom coom, as they say, my son, Anthony Hill.
Yeah, we're back at it. Another day, Breakfast with the Boys. We are in the fall, so football season, so that's our favorite time of year. We'll talk a little bit of football. Before we get into it, though, at Breakfast with the Boys, we often do, we got to give the shout-out to the studio that which we're in. So that's murraymedia.net for those of you who follow along. And then, always shout-out to our boy Kurt McGirt. That's our intro music and our intro song.
There we go.
We always start strong there. Hey, so, Pops, before we get into it, man, Breakfast with the Boys, we talk a lot of different stuff. We talk about breakfast. Can you believe how expensive it is to get donuts these days?
Man, it's ridiculous. Are you kidding me? I went and got a half dozen donuts, and the lady told me $8. I said, well, hey, are you going to put those additional donuts in this box? Because I know I'm not paying $8 for 6 donuts, and that's ridiculous over there. And then you're telling me that you paid $30 for the donuts? You know what you should have did? You should have played it off and said, excuse me, ma'am. Can I get a refund on my? I need you to take these back, because that's how you should have played it off. You should have let her ring it up and say, "Oh, excuse me, man. Here the donuts back. I don't want to."
Hey, well, I'm desensitized to it.
Hey.
I'm desensitized to it because I order so much food for delivery. So you got delivery fees and all that. So I'm paying for convenience. So when I went in, it did strike me. I'm like, man, that's $30, but I didn't even think anything of it getting it, but. Again, man, we talk about everything here on this show.
Yeah, that's funny, man. You talk, your Uber Eats and Uber and your account over there. I guess they gotta like these donut shops. These kind of fees they're bringing in over there.
Hey, we do it right, man. But hey, look, so you all know we release every Friday. Today we're doing some Monday reflections because we do film on Monday here. So yesterday, week 1, opening game, the boys 33-17, but it was not as close as what the score indicated. What's your thoughts, man? Week 1, how'd you feel about it?
I felt really good. But before we go there as well, and I want to go there immediately, though, we need to let our listeners know, hey, we're back, okay? We are back. We're going to be back on the roll. We said last time it was just Anthony and I, we were back. But we're back. We're back fresh. We're excited. The season started, so we're going to talk about some of the league. We're going to talk about some other things, and obviously, as I talked about, faith as well. But, hey, we're going to talk some football. We're going to talk to boys, there's been a lot of things happening. CeeDee Lamb, signs a $13 million. No, I mean, not 13. I'm sorry. I was trying to exaggerate, but I'm not exaggerating. I mean,
you got to get in the hundreds when you want to talk about that.
He average about $37 million a year. Dak averaging $60 million a year. And, of course, he gets signed on the night or the morning of the game yesterday. You got to like that. And guess what? The big fella delivered. I got one of my boys, and I know he's listening over here. He thinks Dak stinks. He says, hey, Dak's about the worst quarterback in the NFL. I said, well, he's getting paid that worst kind of money, and he played like the worst kind of player in the league. He played huge. What I liked about the Cowboys, was the bottom line is that from an offensive standpoint, I thought there was consistency. I mean, Zeke looked like an older Zeke, but an older young Zeke. And when I say that, I saw the Zeke that got his shoulders level, and he was getting you 4 or 5 yards of crack, and he wanted to eat, And so when you want to eat, he's coming here to play. You know what I'm saying?
Zeke, yeah.
It's funny. I used to say, I played football for my bread and meat. What I didn't catch, I didn't eat. The bottom line is that I like to eat, and you can see I got to get off that eat. But, but the bottom line is Zeke was running hard. And then the other back, 23, I can't think of his name, but anyway, the bottom line is that they ran the ball exceptionally well. But what's even better, though, as well, is that Dak made good decisions. He threw the ball exceptionally well. And CeeDee, who came in, played exceptionally well. And then you got Brandon Cook on the other side as a wide receiver, I thought did exceptionally well as well. On top of that, though, Anthony, and I know I'm going on a tangent, but on top of that is that the offensive line did a good job. And see, that's what's going to be important for the Cowboys to excel. You talk about all the skilled players, out there. Ferguson at tight end, we'll see how he's feeling with his knee. But when you talk about the Cowboys, you got to talk about this offensive line. That's going to be the key to them producing. Now, on the flip side, and I know I'm just running, but on the flip side, defense looked phenomenal. What I like most importantly is the fact that they put Number 11, they put Michael out as a defensive end. Let him create some problems. DeMarcus Lawrence showed up, and it's been a long time since he's done anything because all we've been talking about is Micah. That Green Bay game was horrific in the playoffs because the bottom line, they had no defensive pressure on Love, or the quarterback. You had a young quarterback in there. There was no pressure on them. As a result, they got smacked. Well, in this game, they put pressure on Deshaun Watson. Micah came up, and they kept him out of the defensive end. There's a couple times he's in the middle, but for him to be most effective, in my opinion, he's got to be on the outside. He's got to be on the outside creating havoc, and as he did, he made things happen, and he created DeMarcus Lawrence on the other side to make some things happen as well. Another thing that I like is the secondary. I think we got some dogs. One of my boys, we watched the game yesterday. I had some people over the house. And one of my boys kept saying, they got some dogs out there, man. Let me tell you, they got some real dogs out there. I know.
Shout out to Mitch.
Yeah, we should give Mitch a shout. He said they got some dogs. And one of the dogs that I like, the corners are playing good, the linebackers are playing really good. But I like Wilson, number 6. Keep your eye on him. I was broadcasting at A&M when he was playing over there. This guy was bringing smoke. You know what he's doing? He's bringing smoke now. Yeah. But the key thing is being as a safety is that you have to leave a tattoo. When you hit, you have to leave a stamp. If you can leave a stamp on a player, then you got him where you want him. And that's what he was doing. He was stamping him every time he hit him. And so you thought that, hey, Wilson is in the house. And that's what I liked about the Cowboys yesterday. It was not only an offensive, defensive game, but the coaching staff, I thought, did exceptionally well. I thought Mike McCarthy probably called his best game as a whole. It's the first time that we've seen, not a pass-happy team that was there. They ran the ball, they passed the ball. It's not one of those situations where, that we don't know what's going to happen. Well, we did know they're going to pass, on every play. But that wasn't the case. They made some changes. So I really liked that from what I saw from the Cowboys. I saw a complete team effort.
Well, all right, how much of this, I know the Browns playoff team last year, 11-7. How much of this was what you liked from the Cowboys versus, and maybe the Cowboys made them look this way, but the Browns did not look good.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think the Cowboys looked exceptionally well. I think they were very well prepared. I was concerned about them, as I am generally with the teams that they don't play during preseason, which we'll talk about a little bit later in this show. But the fact that Dak and the guys hadn't been out there for preseason, you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, yeah, they've done it. They've been there before. But like boxers, great boxers, when they get in, they spar before they fight. Before they have a big fight, they go in with a big boy. Somebody's going to lay some leather on them. You're saying, well, why do they do that? So they get their bodies physically ready to play, physically ready to be able to take those hits. And these guys haven't done that. So the big question is, they played exceptionally well. So they showed that they can get together and play exceptionally well. But how long can they play? Will they not get injured? That's my biggest concern about the Cowboys right now. Going back to your question pertaining to the Browns, yeah, the Browns played well last year, but now, guess what? They're on film. They saw them on film. They know what these guys are all about. It's a big difference. The Cowboys had something to look at. They had film to look at, and these guys, you can see they were on their plays. They did a really great job of covering. They were in cover 3. They were in cover 2. They were playing the backs coming out the backfield. They did an exceptional job, and that's what it's all about. Having athletes, but being prepared and knowing what to do, and I think that's the difference. I don't think the Browns are that bad of a ball club. I think the Cowboys played exceptionally well.
Yeah. How do you feel as a receiver? Like you said, what's the saying again about catch you don't eat?
Yeah, I play football for my bread and meat. When I don't catch, I don't eat.
Yeah, that's a strong one. I want to make sure I don't forget that one.
That's the way we roll, Hey,
if you're Amari Cooper, you got your old team coming back in. At this point, I think he's top 65 all-time receiving. He'll be top 50 by the end of the year, minimum. You're wanting to go out there and show these guys, hey, man, you messed up getting rid of me. How you feel as a receiver? You getting the kind of routes he's getting and the kind of action he got last night?
It sucks. Hey, I'm going to tell you like it is. It sucks. When you're a wide receiver, understand this, man. When I played, and you can say whatever you want, I couldn't get enough passes. People say, Tony might not do this, Tony might. Hey, I wanted the ball on every play. I felt, and I believe all great receivers, and this is my opinion, all great receivers want the ball. They believe, if you give it to me, I can score. The objective is to score. So why is it? What is the concern about throwing the ball to me 800 times if I'm going to score? Funny thing, I was watching TV last night, and again, this kind of tells you where we are. I'm watching the game last night. I'm watching the Rams and Detroit over here, and I'm watching the game over here. And I'm over here. I'm salivating over here.
Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp They threw the ball to him 26 times. I said, what? 26 times? It took 5 games for me to get the ball thrown to me 26 times. Drew and I would be, we'd just be laying over our grave if we were dead because of a situation like that. That's incredible. But the bottom line is that we want the ball.
Yeah.
If you got 2 men on me, throw me the ball. I'm gonna make it happen. When you got players like that, trust me. You talk to CeeDee Lamb, you talk to Amari, you talk to Cook, and you talk to these. You talk to these some of these elite wide receivers. I'm really kind of digging the receiving game out here. I'm liking Waddle and Hill. I'm liking our boys at
Minnesota,
Philadelphia, not necessarily Jefferson.
AJ Brown.
Yeah, Brown and I can't think of the other kid off the top, and that's not unusual for me. But the bottom line is that they got some boys that can play. So I look at the tandems when I were playing. It was Drew and I. We had Lynn Swan, and then we had and Stallworth over there. You had Jefferson and a guy by the name of Charlie Joyner and Kellen Winslow. I mean, a threesome. We had Billy Joe Dupree with us. I'm digging where we are right now, but I think there's a disparity in terms of the quality of play with some of the decision makers with some of our quarterbacks, which we can talk about as well.
So, going to that, I'm thinking. So this summer, I think it was this summer, as Tom Brady has kicked off his broadcasting career, he went on record in an interview saying that he thinks that the quarterback play in the league has been watered down, and he says he thinks we're seeing the effect of it, and the quality of play is down. And if you're looking solely at the numbers, last 5 years, first opening week 2019, there was I think it was 61 touchdown passes, 20 somewhere around there, 2021 somewhere around there.
Correct.
Fast forward now, week 1 minus Monday night tonight, there's 33 touchdown passes. Do you think the quarterback play is in a worse position than it has been? Do you think defenses have evolved? Because they changed the rules, right? So that hopefully we have a higher scoring game. Maybe there's more rushing touchdowns. You think of someone like Jalen Hurts who's doing all these quarterback sneaks. But what do you think? What do you think about, 1, Tom Brady's comments, and 2, this trend we're seeing about touchdown passes decreasing? Is that a reflection of the quarterback play, or what do you think is going on?
I think it's a reflection of the league. You talk about quarterback play. I think that since Tom's come in, there's been some phenomenal quarterback or athletic quarterbacks that have come in the league. But what you got to remember, when Tom came in the league, and when I played, and even before that, during preseason, we played a lot. We played at least 1 quarter, at least 2 quarters, at least 3 quarters during preseason. You don't see that now. And when I say that, Tom was a third team. I mean, he was second, third string, so he was playing during preseason. He was playing during preseason when he first started. He was playing during preseason. You don't see that now. You got young quarterbacks who haven't been in the league yet, and they're playing 3 series. Yeah. And you want them to be ready. I mean, you want them to be able to. You can't expect that. They haven't had their rapport with the wide receivers, although they practice some during the summer. But it's nothing like game time. I'm going out there running running routes over there with nobody there, or the guy just shadowing me. It ain't like when the guy's on me and hey, pressing me. What am I going to do in this situation? They're not getting a chance to see that. Also, even with quarterbacks today, the bottom line is that you don't see any preparation, for the big game. I.e., that's why I was concerned about the Cowboys. But then again, though, you got a Dak who's been in the league for 7 or 8 years, knows the system exceptionally well. CD led the league in receiving, so bottom line, he knows his routes, and Cook. So that, from the standpoint of ones that have been there for a while, you're gonna see consistency. I.e., the Philadelphia Eagles with Hurts over there, i.e. with Minnesota with Jefferson. I mean, but I'm saying with the guys who have been there in the system and played all year, they know the system. But when they bring in these young quarterbacks, they come in, they haven't had the chance to play with the first team the whole time, haven't had a chance to get hit, haven't had a chance to see blitzes, haven't had that opportunity. Yeah, they're going to be behind. Yeah, you're going to see a decline, and I think that's the reason behind it right now.
Doesn't hurt that, I guess, man, as I think about, look at the last 5 years, what are we on, year 3 or 4 of the 17-game season? So that's also 1 less week of preseason.
Correct.
So not just are they not playing those games, that's less reps in camp and whatnot that you're seeing too, right? So,
absolutely. And the players, again, and you get it. I mean, from a standpoint of a marketing and from an investment standpoint. But as a fan, and I'm kind of on that. I mean, I'm wearing kind of two hats now. I'm a player. I want the players to make as much money as they can And they are. Don't get me wrong. Hey, they're making big bucks. As I digress, I can recall back in the day, my contract. I mean, it was like, it was thousands. It wasn't hundreds of thousands. It was thousands, so to speak. But my incentives, I was getting $5,000 for 45 catches, $5,000 for 10 touchdowns. No, I'm not talking about, per game. I'm talking about $5,000 for the season. I mean, I would accumulate maybe $35,000. And I'm talking about I'm going to the Pro Bowl. I'm in a superstar, super teams. I'm NFL All-Pro.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting, and my incentives were like $33,000, $35,000. Can you imagine that now? I mean, these guys, like I said, I said CD was making 13. I was trying to be facetious by saying 13 million, but but 1,300 million. I mean, the bottom line is that. It's crazy, but understand this. I'm all about the players because we had to strike in order for them to get to where they are, and that's what it's all about. It's like pay for it in that situation. But with that situation over here, it's just kind of a game changer.
Hey, I'm with you. I want to see players get paid, but the bone I got to pick is man, we got football every night of the week now. Hey, growing up, possibly we had tradition at the Hill House. I knew we were doing Thanksgiving dinner at dinner time. Other people call Thanksgiving dinner and they're doing it at 2:00, but you had the Cowboy game. After the Cowboy game, you got back, right? That's a tradition around America. On Thanksgiving, you got the Macy's Day Parade. You got the Lions, the Cowboys. Those two you always know are playing.
Right.
Christmas time, man, was for me, NBA from noon to 8 p.m.
Hey.
It fell on a Sunday. And so the NFL was like, well, we're going to experiment with it. It's on a Wednesday this year, and the NFL said, this is ours again too. I get it, man. They're making money. People will tune into the NFL. But enough's enough, man. We got to give the NBA their Christmas Day back, man.
Are you kidding me? The NBA, they started in September now. I mean, it used to be like they started in December. But, now the NBA starts in September. They'll play 3 games in September, 3 games in November. Then they kind of ramp it up. But the bottom line is that, and I'm biased from that perspective, though. Football is American sport. That's the number one sport in my opinion. Now, again, I'm a football, and I love basketball. And if I had to watch football or basketball, I'd rather watch basketball back in the day than I'd watch a football game. But the bottom line is that, hey, we bring the people to the TV. They watch football. That's the bottom line. And so you got to give that market. And, of course, in order to pay these athletes to a certain extent, because, these numbers are outrageous, and I say that don't get it twisted when I'm saying that. The bottom line is that hey, they deserve it from that standpoint because they're bringing the product on, they're bringing people in there, and they need to get their share. And so you got the owners can't afford not to have them on there, especially with the contracts that they're giving the TV and the TV revenue from the standpoint of commercials for an NFL team. A team would rather play. A company would rather advertise with an NFL team than with the NBA to a certain extent because of the broader viewership of the games.
We could go back and forth. I don't know. I'm 100% aligned.
Okay.
Mainly because we're seeing a lot of different changes in viewership, right? So now, if you go ask a kid, you watch a kid back in the day, man. After dinner, we had the league pass and we were watching full-on games, flipping between them. Now kids want to watch 30-second highlights. They didn't want to watch games anymore. So you think about TikTok and all those things. The NBA surpassed the NFL online. So I hear you, especially think revenue. But also you think about this, man. Back in the day, I had cable. We used to have what? We had DirecTV. What do we have? The Dish Network?
We had the Dish for about 2 weeks. It rained, and next thing you know, we have TV for 2 weeks. You say, we got to let this go. Hey, I know you all know what I'm talking about. I mean, that Dish, I can get a show in Taiwan or Vietnam. I can get it one day, and the next day it's that's all we would get. So we had to let that go.
Well, hey man, now if I want to watch every game, I gotta have Peacock, Amazon Prime, cable. I can't even think of everything else at the time. I know there's about 6 there. So they're getting that money. It makes sense that these players are getting paid because these streaming deals across every platform are pretty out of control. I want to go back real quick. Something you just said as you're talking about your incentive structure and your deal and how times have changed. You say, hey, $33,000 for an all-pro year is a bonus. Now these guys are getting that for, a series of downs.
A series of downs. You know? That's crazy. A series of downs. You know, I mean, what you got? A guy getting paid. He's getting paid $5,000 a down. You know, I mean, for plays. You know, that's crazy.
It is crazy, but you're happy for it. You said we strike for this very reason. You're a player's first person. I'm seeing this same type of transition happening right now in the women's game, NBA, where, you know, last year the discourse was around, can we even get off of, you know, can we start getting chartered planes instead of having to fly commercial? Can we do this or that? You're seeing viewership be at all-time highs. And it's in large part because it's rookie class, right? You hear a lot of people talking about Caitlin, Angel, even the way they're talking about your girl from Stanford, Cameron Brink. They're more marketable than ever before.
Correct.
Right? But I don't see that same level of excitement and support across our women's game from some of our veterans or, you know, retired folks. What do you think that is, man? Why do you think there's not the same level of happiness that this game's evolving and we're getting more exposure?
Well, I think it's inevitable. You know, there's some. You know, you got to understand that word inevitable is a huge thing. It's inevitable that this game's going to grow, especially when you have players like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. I mean, as a matter of fact, they're big game changers, not only from their performance, but from their personalities out there. See, I think that lacked that exposure for the WNBA. Now you got players that got a little swag, who think they got some game going. They want some, and you got to give Caitlin Clark her due. You can say what you want about Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner and all those players, and Sue Bird and those guys, but they didn't have that era, that
aura, okay.
Yeah, the aura about them. They didn't have that. They didn't. They weren't wearing Gucci outfits over there and heels to a game, or wearing doing their thing, so to speak. Well, you got these girls that they show the feminine / just their side. Their side. They're showing themselves. I mean, so scratch the feminine side. They're showing themselves, and people get a chance to get to know them, and that's a big difference. And also, I mean, Caitlin brings a game, we may get some conflicts, but Caitlin reminds me of Pistol Pete when he came to the game. There was a lot of people that were hating Pistol Pete, but Pistol Pete put people in the seats because of his game. Caitlin Clark put people in the seats because of their game, and others evolved around. I mean, emerged and grew upon that. And that's what's happening here. And I'm hoping that our girls will embrace it as the public is embracing that. And I think that's where you're going to see a change. You got Paige Buechler coming in, and you got my girl, Watkins over there.
Jordan is coming.
Jordan is coming. I like that with Jordan. Hey, she's a monster.
Yeah.
You know that? I told you that when I was out there in California. I said, man, you better check this girl out from USC. She's a baller. And you know what? Straight out baller. And she's going to change the game up. So, and what's going to happen is that you're going to see little girls, younger girls watching these guys playing. They're going to be changing their game. They're going to be going bop, bop, bop. Bop, bop, bop. Bop, 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 bop. We're going to see a different game, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. I said I watched maybe 5 minutes of the first USC game. You told me to check it out, and she's at 18, a freshman, and 5 minutes. I said I've never seen a better women's basketball player.
Post, handle the rock, play on the boards, play a little bit of defense. I mean, defense. Yeah. She's a baller, And you got Paige. I like Paige, and again in our show we just go off. We going from one tangent to another thing. But the thing that I like about Paige, and she would have been, she could have easily been 1 or 2 this year. Between her and Caitlin, without a question. And next year she'll be 1 or 2 for sure next year, without a question, depending on what Watkins does. But the bottom line is that, what I like about her, and we're doing this transition, I like her faith.
Yeah.
I like the fact that she realized that she can do all things through the big fella, I mean, that, I give him all the glory, because, hey, what I'm able to accomplish is not my plan. I mean, it may be something that I want to do, but I understand that I'm following a paved road that he set out for me. And it's tough, Anthony, when you have youngsters like, such as such as yourself, but young kids coming up right now and acknowledging experience. Because I know that I didn't totally. When I say totally, I believed in Jesus Christ. And I realize now, without a question, that everything that I do is part of his plan, And so I try to embrace that, and understand it. But the more that you can understand that, the more it enhances your life and it enhances your experience with everybody else that you're with. And you see these young players like Paige, who's a baller, who understands that, hey, it's all about them, and they don't get twisted in their own thing. I see nothing but great things happening.
Yeah, go into Paige. I mean, so much of that also, obviously, is your faith, but your upbringing. So I don't know how familiar you are with her upbringing. there were some jokes on the internet. She's a black stepmother, or maybe it's her mother actually. I'm unsure. But in her interview, they were asking her, what do you like to listen to get ready for a game? She said, I listen to some gospel. So a lot of people are, we'd love to hear this. So wondering what she's listening to. She's like, yeah, I listen to a little bit of Marvin Sapp. And like, well, what was your favorite song? Like, praise him in advance. And I said, okay, she grew up in the church.
Right.
That ain't no. Hey, I turned on church radio. You grew up in the church. You listen to that.
It's not like it's the God in me.
Yeah, that's very commercial.
Right, that's
Mary.
commercial. Not hey, she breaking out some gospel from the pulpit out there. She getting off over here.
Yeah, so I also think I've seen a lot of players who are a lot more outspoken. Your boy down in Houston, C.J. Stroud, very outspoken about his faith.
Yeah, but you talk about that. You talk about CJ, who's a beast, and we can talk about some. I think in our next segment, though, I'd like to expand more about our quarterbacks and our wide receivers, and we can expand as a whole. But that's my game plan. Those wide receivers and quarterbacks, obviously being a quarterback and all. But I'd like to talk about that because you mentioned that about what's happening with the quarterbacks. Are they growing? Are they going down? What does it have to do? Let's talk a little bit about that on our next podcast. But the thing that I like though, as you went down that road with Paige, is that with Trevor Lawrence, and he's back in your woods. You know a little bit about him, but he went out and made what's called not a bold statement. He just made a statement. He says the bottom line is, man, hey, I love football, man, but I don't love him as much as I love God.
Yeah.
He says the bottom line is my relationship in terms of how I do everything. God is number one, family's number two, and everything else centers around that. Now here's a guy we paid $450 million. I'm trying to exaggerate. And I still can't get numbers high enough to talk about how much these guys are getting paid. But the bottom line is that, hey, I mean, he's getting paid, buku money, so to speak. And he's saying, you know what, hey, that's great, and trust me, it's good. But you know what? For me to evolve, for me to function, for me to exist, is that I've got to, my higher power plays a huge role in my life.
Yeah, that's huge, man. Again, I think you're seeing a shift in culture, a shift in sports. I don't know if you're aware of the Ohio State football team. They're baptizing teammates.
Boom.
And it's been, I think they said they had baptized over like 20 players so far in talking early the fall season, right? So it's definitely something that we're seeing more mainstream. I can recall 10 years ago, we had a quarterback in the NFL who was very outspoken about his faith, and it was a very divisive topic, right? It was a lot of people supporting Tebow because of that. A lot of people also who were like, man, I don't want to hear any more from this guy. And now we see it more and more. And if we're talking about athletes who are professing their faith, especially this time where early September, so Olympics have just closed up, you can't talk about athletes who are professing their faith and being a good representation of the kingdom without talking about Sydney McLaughlin.
Yeah, Sydney, I mean, and I'd like you to expand on that because, I watched this girl. I mean, hey, number one, she's beautiful. She's got a wonderful husband, but she can run, flat out run. But after she won her first race, the first thing she says is that, hey, I can do this without God. I run for God,
I've yet to see an interview in any capacity, no matter the
any
topic,
capacity,
no matter the topic, no matter the discussion, where she does not tie it back to her relationship with Jesus Christ and her faith. And it's awesome, man. As I think about raising little girls, and Millie, I'm signing her for some tracks she's loving to run and race, and I'm thinking about the type, women's sports, finally starting to get more equity and more visibility. But I'm seeing some of the athletes that are being propped up that she's going to be able, her, Cross, Ella, even Lux at that standpoint, are going to be able to look up to. And there's some really good examples out there, man. And she's one of them where I'm like, I don't know I've ever been so invested in women's hurdling, but I'm like, man, I want her to win whatever it is, hurdling, non-hurdling,
Right, but she's a beast. I mean, the bottom line, the way she hits the hurdle, I think she's got an 8-step, hit the hurdle, boom, 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 8-step, and she's on it, and anybody that runs a 300 hurdles, 400 hurdles, or whatever the case may be, she's rocking and rolling, but, we talk about that is that, again, I'm a believer, and I should be more in the church than I am. As a matter of fact, I've been slacking, and it's always that's how God works. He has circumstances that remind you, hey, look, man, you might want to come back to me. You might want to find out who I really am. You understand that you don't realize how much you really miss Jesus until you don't have him. And until you forget to bring him in your life, or how important he is in your life, so to speak. But when I was playing, here's the deal. As a professional athlete, man, I catch a touchdown. They bring the mic up to me, and I say, "Hey, I want to thank Roger Staubach for throwing me the ball. I want to thank it. Make sure there was a spiral. It was right on time, and I want to thank God. And then we had, he was the number one, and I didn't realize that until having kids later on in my life, when I rededicated my life to Jesus Christ. And obviously you can see that we are believers, but I didn't realize that. These guys used to sit down, have prayer. I would show up, but I wasn't there. I was there, and I can't even say I was there in spirit. I was just there physically, You know what I mean? I was just there because that might have been the thing to do, but I didn't realize the opportunities I had then. That to enlighten myself, to improve my life as a whole. I remember, I never forget this. Thomas Henderson calls me up, and said, "Hey man, they're having this convention over here. It's a Jesus convention, but you ain't got to worry about that, man. It's at a 5-star hotel. You can bring the family. You can enjoy. Don't even worry about it." So I told my wife, I said, "Hey baby, we're gonna go out there and party. They might be, going to the spiritual thing and blah blah blah, but hey, we're gonna have and we're in Phoenix. I mean, beautiful, Scottsdale, beautiful. Bottom line, there's a guy named Reggie White, Terry Cummins. I don't know if you remember these guys, basketball players. And the bottom line, they called me out. Mm-hmm. They said, "Hey man, are you a believer?" He said, No. Are you a believer? Well, hey. And he said, "No, you can't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Either you are or you're not. Just as simple as that. And I know you may have came for whatever reason you may have came here, but some reason something speaking to me to tell me to ask you, are you a believer?" And I had to take this all in. And some people think I might have been pressured to do that, but I wasn't pressured. It was like it was a relief. And that's when I found out. That's when I found out when I was watching all those guys doing prayer, Bible study, and et cetera, that it wasn't what I stood to lose by giving up going out, giving up hanging. I can still do all that, but I can still be a believer. I can still get in the Word, so to speak. And so my thing was that what I stood to lose, it wasn't what I stood to lose, it's what I stood to gain by opening my heart. And at that moment in 1988, that's when I rededicated my life because of those two individuals, and it's been a huge game changer for me.
All right, we got to get them on the pod, man.
Yeah, we can't get Reggie. Reggie's passed away.
Terry. Got to get Terry.
But Terry Cummins, we need to bring him on. Hey, the king, Reggie White was the king, baby. It was the king. So, great things happen, I mean, God is good. He's on time all the time. And again, I don't want to dwell on that, but I most certainly want to emphasize that we are believers. And so, if you want to listen to us and enjoy us, you're going to get a little piece of that, and hopefully it might enlighten and enhance your life as well.
Cool, man. So I've been given the keys. He's the talent, right? I'm the chauffeur. I got to get us to our destinations and where we're going. One thing we had talked about before as well, opening week is a lot of exciting stuff. Got to ask you, man, best play you saw yesterday?
Oh, boy. Well, hey, to be a player, I saw a guy throw the ball 60 yards on 1 foot, basically. I was watching the Houston Texans, Baltimore Colts, like that, the Indianapolis Colts. I'm watching this game. Anthony Richardson's on his 30-yard line. He steps up and throws the ball, and they catch the ball on the 1-yard line to take the ball in. Understand this, though. When he threw the ball, he had a man in his face. He let it go. This guy's running full speed. We're talking about 60 yards down the field. It's one thing to throw the ball 60, 70 yards downfield, and it floats. It just drops, because the guy's waiting. Because you don't never catch a 70-yard pass full speed. See, that's what you got to remember. My man was running full speed, and my boy dropped this on a dime 70 yards. Now, can you imagine what the defensive back was saying?
The defensive back's not. He said he can't get the ball.
Right.
He can't get the ball out
here. You can't get that here. You know what? And so he said you can't get that here. And the coach can't say no when he comes to the sideline. Hey man, you done covered
this guy for 75 yards.
Hey, what can you tell the guy? Hey coach, I was with him for 65 of those 70 yards. What do you want me to do? But here's the deal. I'm broadcasting. I'm sitting up in a booth. As being a wide receiver, you kind of peep all the wide receivers. And there's this guy from Green Bay. He's now with the Jets. He's a beast. And I'm going to tell you, he's a real legitimate beast, one of my top 10 quarterbacks. I mean, I think he's really that good. His name is Aaron Rodgers. He was a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. You're going to have to listen to this to really appreciate what I'm talking. For all those wide receivers, you're going to understand that this is unbelievable. This route that Jordy Nelson ran. He ran what's called a corner post. Now, first of all, you don't have time to run that route. I saw my man run a 65-yard route.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can't get open on a 65-yard route, I just can't get open. But my man literally ran down the field. He took 5 steps to the middle, broke back to the corner another 5 steps, and then took off to the post on the other side of the field. Rodgers catches the ball. He sits back here, he takes about 5 or 6 steps, and then he reverses field and stops and throws it. This was designed. This was designed. He throws the ball 65 yards in the air, strike to Jordy Nelson. If I ever would have had a route like that, or they had routes like that once a game, I'd average 200 yards a game. Let me tell you something right now. You think I'm kidding? A corner post design called in the game. I said, you got to be kidding me. So that took me to another level. It gave me some respect for Green Bay, the offensive line from that standpoint. But for Rodgers to call that play, do this, come back around, and throw the ball to the opposite side of the field, 65 yards down the field, incredible. Anthony Richardson, this guy's got some talent.
Hey, but did he throw it off his back foot? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I'm focused on the route at the throw. I can't tell you he threw, but the bottom line, if he threw a 65, on steroid, and my man's running this route, I don't care what foot he threw it on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now Anthony Richardson, that was spectacular. Let me tell you something. That boy up in Green Bay, not in Green Bay, but now with the New York Jets, is a talent. I don't know how well he's going to do this year, and I think part of the problem that Aaron's going to have is going to be his mobility. At Jets' offensive line, I don't know if they're going to be able to hold him, and that's what helped. That's what happened to him last year. I mean, it's one thing you give a great quarterback time to throw, he's going to make something happen. But if he doesn't have time to throw, he's not a 4-3-4, 4-2 runner. Those days are changed because you got Micah, Parson. This guy's running a 4-3-40. Man, I never ran a 4-3-40 in my life. I mean, hey, I can run a 4-3 at 45 yards. I mean, 35 yards, let alone 40. So, it's a game's changed. But I tell you right now, that was a heck of a throw.
Well, I'm going to talk about a couple of your favorite sayings. Anyone who's heard you talk sports knows you say these often. You talk about Aaron Rodgers. You always say sports is for youth. You think he's got enough in the tank to do it this year if the offensive line holds up?
I'm not sure. I mean, the reality of it, sports is for youth. I think Rodgers is going to bring a lot to the game, and he's going to make some things happen. But the bottom line is that I don't think that he has enough.
Okay.
I mean, and Aaron, I love you. I think you're a ball player. But sports is for youth, man. And number one, you're dealing with 20-year-olds. That's got to be tough in the locker room. Number two, I mean, what they listen to is not what you listen to, and I can assure you that. Their beliefs aren't the same beliefs that you have, and then you got to go out there and perform, and then you have to get, after every game you're in the, you can't make the club in the tub. We used to say, unless you're Aaron Rodgers or somebody of that magnitude, you can make the club, but you can be in the tub, with ice and all that, and make the club, but. I think it's going to be a tough one for them. I think they made a mistake by getting rid of their quarterback.
And you can't make the club in the tub. So that meant the young dudes who were trying to hit the town, you couldn't do your rehab and recovery after the game. You need to get going. What's that mean?
That means rehab is tough, boy. Let me tell you something. One limping back to after the game is over. It's not just necessarily after the day that after the game. After the game, you're sore, but it's the next day. And then you don't want to go into the training. You get your day off the next day. You don't want to be in the training room the next day. And you know how they always do. The worst thing they used to do, at least with us, and that could be Tom Landry's era, but we got treatment at 9 a.m. the next morning. I mean, they can't let you sleep in. What's up with that? They can at least let you come in at noon, or 1 o'clock. But no, we're there at 9 a.m. So now that may not be the case. And then again, for superstars, they may have that privilege. But number one, that in itself, and then you're thinking, man, boy, this is going to be a long year. This is going to be a long year.
Yeah.
So that's some of the things that's going to happen with Aaron, without a question. I think so. I mean, unless that offensive line gets better, and I can tell you right now, you can rest assured they're going to be coming after. They're going to be playing like they played Deion's team. They see Deion. They see what's his name?
Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, they see Shedeur back there. They're going full speed. They blitzing. They're bringing. I mean, Nebraska. And I know I digress again, but Nebraska is bringing 8, 9 people in the box on Shedeur to make sure that he can't get through, and it worked.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Actually, that's a good segue, because I'm going into one of your other favorite topics, things to say. You always say that players make coaches. And I think back through the first week of the season, or yesterday, right? You see what happened. Some of the players who had the best performances, Baker had himself a day up in Tampa. Sam Darnold had a pretty good day up in Minnesota. But if you rewind a year and a half / 2 years ago for Baker, I mean, they're saying Sam Darnold shouldn't even be in the league, let alone playing in New York, right?
Right.
They're saying Baker in Cleveland, one of the worst number 1 picks, the Cleveland curse, this and that. Now they get a situation. You give Sam Darnold, arguably the best receiver in NFL. It looks like he can do something. You give Baker, one of the most underrated receivers of all time, Mike Evans. He's up there, and a chance to shine. He starts playing. I look at a guy like Deshaun yesterday. Again, maybe it's the team, but he didn't look good. That's what I say. I know you were saying you think it's some of the system. So is it that players make coaches, or when you get to the NFL and everybody's good, is it that systems make players?
And my answer is a combination of both, but more so system make players. I mean, you have a guy like Barry Sanders, and you have a guy like Walter Payton. They're exceptions to the rule. I mean, I got to tell you, because hey, when you played against the Chicago Bears, stop Payton. Don't worry about anybody else. Stop Payton. When you play Detroit, don't worry about anything else. Stop Barry. Barry had stopped you. He stopped on a dime, go left, go right, go left again, then take off. Walter would look at you and try to run you over. You remember you talk about Travis, the big kid. Walter would try to run you over. He had that mentality. Then he'd give the sweetness to you. They're the exceptions to the rule. But the bottom line is that, if you're running, for example, if you're on a team like Carolina, and I'm putting them on. Their offense stinks. It's the worst offense in the world. There's nothing you can do. Cam Newton was an exception to the rule as well for a portion of the time. But the bottom line is that he had 2 tight ends, nothing else. The only thing that he could have had worse was a wing T offense. That's how poor that offense was, but that's how bad he was. But the bottom line is that, a perfect example is there was a guy named Jefferson. I can't think of Jefferson's first name. Cold-blooded wide receiver for the and he'll probably be pissed off at me. I can't remember him for the San Diego Chargers. And man, this guy, I would have gave my right arm to change position with him. Because San Diego, they're called the Air Coryell. They were throwing the ball. If they're throwing the ball, they put the ball in the air. And this man was bringing in numbers and kicking butt. They move over to Green Bay with an offense that's probably one of the worst offenses in the world until James Lofton came there to help him out. But they still weren't a great offense. He didn't bust a grape. Didn't bust a grape at all. Because it was a system. And you look at these running backs, the same thing that happened. And the bottom line is, my opinion, you look at these poor offenses where they have no pass routes, they have nothing set up for them to make anything happen, no running plays, no distinguished offensive line, and you say, what happened to this guy? Hey, you just don't get terrible over one day. I'm telling you right now, it's the systems. And in my opinion, the system in some of the NFL teams, and I don't understand why these coaches go from one team to another team to another team, and they haven't really produced. Yeah. Although they're a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator, I haven't seen nothing that justifies them getting those jobs.
Yeah. No, that's fair, man. I think about the game yesterday we were watching at your house, and I'm thinking about the Cowboys, and I'm thinking about the Browns, and I know who we thought Deshaun was in Clemson / in Houston, and I'm like, whoa. Whatever I saw yesterday, man, was hard to watch.
Yeah, but he can throw. And see, that's the thing. He can throw, but he can't. Again, the Cowboys' the defensive line dominated that offensive line. Micah was in the backfield before he could even, get a 3-yard drop, and then all of a sudden DeMarcus Lawrence woke up. Hey, DeMarcus, good to have you back. I mean, he came back and started playing, and the bottom line, he didn't have any time. Then you got your receivers. I'm watching these routes. I mean, Anthony, you can go out there and play for Cleveland right now. The kind of routes they're running because they don't take nothing to get open what they have. I mean, the routes are that bad, so to speak. And so with Amari, he had a couple of big days, so to speak, what happened. But now all their stuff's on film. People are able to see what they're doing, and there's nothing to their game. And so it'll be interesting to see, the Cowboys and the Saints, because with a new coach over there, they've changed it up and they've changed up their system. But it's going to be interesting. But I think the Cowboys' defensive line may be for real.
All right, so yeah, we can let's close with that. You're talking about the Cowboys. You said you're bringing up the Saints next week. The Saints, are they for real, or are the Panthers just that bad? What, a 47-10 opening season? Is this Derek Carr's revenge year after being left off the Raiders, or what do you think is going to happen next week? What should the people be looking out for?
Well, I think to answer the last question in terms about system makes players, i.e. Derek Carr, the game that he has is out this world, and all of a sudden he couldn't play for the Raiders anymore. Now he's relevant. He's relevant in the situation. But the bottom line is that, to make my case again, is that system makes players. The Carolina Panthers just stink. That's just the bottom line. You can say whatever you want. I mean, I don't know how good Bryce Young is. I don't know how good he'll ever be unless he changes to another ball club.
Yeah.
And that's where we are right now. So we'll find out what the Cowboys are all about this week as well.
All right. So predictions for the week?
For the predictions for the week is that we got to get ready. The Cowboys have got to have to. They're going to have to do what they have. I mean, they got Delvin Cook in the background, which I think is going to be a major addition. I think that's why Zeke's running so hard. Zeke's running like, hey, they got a guy who might be able to back him up, and that's important. When you got a guy that
might be taking your spot,
who can come in and who can take it the distance, that improves. And so I like that we have that, And so and I say that because we're talking breakfast with the boys, but the bottom line is that the Cowboys have a good team on paper. The question is, will they stay healthy? Because none of them really played much. Not to say every other team did the same thing, but the other teams, the Cowboys are getting older. They're not that youngest team in the league anymore. It's a different game, so to speak. And so, with that being said, we just got to think about it.
We got to think about it. So we'll do this, man. We'll be back. We'll keep covering some NFL. We'll continue to have some guests on. We're gonna have some throwbacks to talk through some of the glory days. Hopefully, the Cowboys can see some glory days sometime soon again.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Well, hey, when the Cowboys when they excel, I excel. Hey, so when it's good for them, it's good for me. So I bleed silver and blue. I'm a Cowboy fan, but we want to keep it real here, and we just want to get back with you guys as listeners. We're gonna have some guests on. We're gonna get back to our guests. We had Roger, we had Dorsett, we had Drew, we had Haley, we had all the boys. We getting ready to spice it up again. We're gonna take it back, But I want you to get you a little piece of this. This is the other TNT connection, or the A&A connection. My son and I.
Yes, sir. So, hey, thanks for sticking with us another week, Breakfast with the Boys. We'll catch y'all here next week, same time.
There you go. Be blessed.